Hello, I'm going to make a short video about talking to patients' relatives on the phone. This is something you might be asked to do, especially at the moment when visiting is reduced in the hospital. Patients' relatives will want an update, and this might be a task which is delegated to you. I'm going to make 7 key points about this. My first point is, before you make the call, prepare yourself. Make sure you've checked the notes and any recent results. Ideally get a handover from the nurse looking after the patient, and if you can, find somewhere quiet where you won't be interrupted to make the telephone call. This may not be possible, but it's ideal. When you start the phone call, do careful introductions. Say, hello, my name's Judith Cave, I'm one of the oncology consultants. Then make sure you know who you are talking to. Sometimes there might be more than one family member who wants to be involved in the phone call. For example, the person you're phoning may put the phone on speaker. Make sure you know who else is listening and who's in the room. This can be very helpful. A quick aside about other people on the call. Of course, it's essential that you have the patient's permission to speak to family members. Ideally, the person you're speaking to should be the next of kin, unless you have explicit permission otherwise. Then ask permission. Say, is it a good time for me to give you an update on your mum? They may want to ask you to phone back later if there is another family member who needs to be involved who isn't there. When you start the conversation, try and start with a question. I find, what have you been told so far, is a pretty good catch-all. You may also want to say something like, how do you think your mum's doing? What are your main concerns? That way you'll find out what is on their mind. Be clear. Get to the point. Keep it simple and avoid jargon. If an explanation is required of a particular issue, you might want to signpost this. For example, would it be okay if I explain a bit more about what ventilation involves? Be kind. Acknowledge that this is a difficult situation for them. Especially acknowledge if there is any major uncertainty. Allow time for silence and take care to empathise. For example, you might want to say something like, I can't see your face. Can you tell me how you're feeling right now? It's important to wrap up the conversation carefully. Check their understanding and invite any questions. Then clarify what's going to happen next. For example, I'll phone you again tomorrow. Or, if you want to get back in touch with me, this is the number to ring. I find it helpful at this point sometimes to reintroduce myself. And that's because often at the beginning of the call, the person you're speaking to won't have been aware of the significance, so they may not have taken the time to write down your name. But they may want to write it down at the end. You also need to document what's happened in the notes. Keep this brief but very clear. Finally, my 7th point is be kind to yourself. Talking to people on the phone is challenging. It adds an extra level of complexity to what can already be a difficult conversation. You might be worried about doing it wrong, but the reality is that if you've taken the time to make that call, and if you've been clear and kind, you will have helped a lot. Research shows that people want to know the truth, even if the news is bad. And in my personal experience, people usually thank me at the end of a conversation, even if the news has been bad. Thank you.